Now, you've probably heard the old cliche that we eat with our eyes, and I know I've said it more times than I can count on this channel. But what if I told you science actually proves that good plating doesn't just look nice, it changes how it's perceived by the diner and can even make your food taste better. In controlled studies, diners rate the same dish as tastier, healthier, and even more expensive just because it was plated with care. A team at the University of Oxford in the UK found that when a simple salad was arranged to resemble a Kandinsky painting, people were willing to pay twice as much for it, and even said it tasted better. Now, this might be a slightly extreme and silly example, but it proves the point beautifully. In this video, I'll be breaking down the science behind why presentation matters, and how to use it to elevate the experience of every meal you make. So whether you're a chef, home cook, or just somebody who loves food, you'll see why plating isn't just about looks, it's essential. And the best part is, the science backs it up, so you don't just have to take my word for it. Because more than a decade as a food photographer, I have to admit, I might just be a little bit biased. And if you stick with me all the way to the end, I'll share some practical tips you can use straight away to take advantage of this science to make your food look even more beautiful. Before you've even taken a single bite, your brain is already deciding how it's going to taste. Neuroscientists have shown that by simply looking at appetizing food activates the brain's gustatory cortex, the same area triggered by actual tasting. Your eyes take the first bite. That's why neat, intentional plating sets you up for success. In one experiment, people were served the same food plated neatly versus messily. The neat plates weren't just rated more attractive. Diners assumed the food was of higher quality and imagined it would taste better before touching it, and even guessed it came from a more expensive restaurant. So plating doesn't just look nice, it's a shortcut your brain uses to judge freshness, care, and even the skill in the kitchen. When a plate arrives in front of you, the very first impression is not taste, it's presentation. The way the food is arranged tells an immediate story about the cook's care, skill, and attention to detail. In psychological studies, neat plating didn't just make food more appealing, it made diners believe the cook cared more. They associated the tidy arrangement with professionalism, craftsmanship, and pride. A messy plate, on the other hand, suggests carelessness, no matter how good the actual flavour is. Balance can also play a critical role here. When the elements on the plate are distributed evenly and not clumped to one side, weighed too heavily in one corner, diners instinctively find the presentation more attractive. It feels intentional, harmonious, and inviting. Now, I go much deeper into the design theory of balance in a recent video. I'll link to it here if you'd like to explore those details further. Interestingly, even the plate itself plays a role. A 2022 study found that food presented on a beautifully designed plate, those with elegant patterns or pleasing colours and textures, was rated as tastier and even healthier than the same food served on a plain plate. Diners subconsciously transfer their impressions of the tableware onto the food itself. Attractive plates can even put diners in a more positive mood, while ugly or dull ones can risk distracting from the experience. And this isn't just for Michelin-starred chefs. Even at home, tiny acts of care can make a big difference. Wiping the spill from the rim before serving, slicing with precision, arranging vegetables with intent. These details may seem small, but they accumulate on the plate that looks crafted rather than careless, and the diner feels that difference instantly. This focus on care and context naturally leads us to another powerful visual influence, the way colour, shape, and even plate size can actually change what our brain tastes. Now here's where it gets wild. Visuals don't just shape expectation, they can literally change what you're tasting. Take colour. In one famous experiment, tasters judged a strawberry mousse as significantly sweeter and more enjoyable when served on a white plate compared to a black one. Nothing about this recipe had changed. The lighter background simply made the pink mousse pop, tricking the brain into perceiving more sweetness. This can even happen with wine. In one classic test, wine students confidently described red fruit and chocolate notes in what they thought was a red wine, not realising it was actually white wine that had been tinted with an odourless red dye. The colour alone rewired their tasting notes, and it can work with shape too. Studies show people linked round, curved forms with sweetness and smoothness, while sharp, angular shapes are linked with bitterness or sourness. Some chocolate manufacturers have even reshaped their bars with rounded corners, and customers swore chocolate tasted creamier without a single change to the recipe. And it doesn't stop there. Even plate size can trick the brain thanks to the Delboeuf illusion. Place a small portion on a small plate and it appears larger because it fills more of the surface. Put that same food on a larger plate and it looks sparse. The brain perceives the food in relation to the plate's edge, which changes how generous the portion feels. People tend to serve themselves more on larger plates and less on smaller plates. Some suggest this could help with portion control, but research shows this isn't foolproof, especially if somebody is really hungry and maybe it's a roast dinner. The key takeaway is that our perception of food isn't just about what's on the fork, it's about the visual context around it. And if you want to go deeper into this kind of design thinking, that's exactly why I wrote my book, The Plating Gym. It's packed with information and exercises to help you understand these principles until they become second nature in your plating. But if you'd like to start with something simple today, you can grab my free Plate Like a Pro single-page guide. Both are linked in the description below. Because as powerful as these visual tricks are, plating isn't only about presentation. It's also about creating emotion, sense of occasion, and even lasting memories. Attractive plating doesn't just prime our brain for flavour, it changes how a meal feels. An artful presentation can spark curiosity, surprise, or even delight before the first bite. Studies show that diners report a more positive emotion when food is plated creatively, and those emotions actually make the meal more memorable. Those positive expectations don't just stay in the mind, they can actually enhance the tasting experience itself, acting like a placebo effect of plating. Researchers have even described physical appearance as one of the most important factors influencing how much people enjoy food. Diners prefer restaurants that put artistry into plating, and today's Instagram era, a striking plate doesn't just please guests at the table, it doubles as free marketing. A plate that looks beautiful is far more likely to be photographed, shared, and remembered long after the meal is finished. Presentation also contributes to the sense of occasion and value. In fine dining, a course that arrives looking like a tiny piece of art immediately signals luxury and craftsmanship, justifying a higher price tag. And this isn't limited to just Michelin-starred restaurants. Even at home, taking time to plate with care can transform an ordinary dinner into something that feels like an event. And the roots of this can go even deeper than modern dining culture. Human beings have been hardwired to respond to food visually. For our ancestors, eyesight was a survival tool. Red, bright colours signal freshness and safety, while dull or discoloured foods suggested spoilage and rot. That instinct remains with us today. An attractive plate still signals freshness and care, activating the brain's reward circuits and making the food feel more enjoyable before it's even been tasted. When flavour, aroma and texture are all excellent, presentation becomes a finishing touch that just lifts the entire experience. It's the final layer, the chef's kiss, that transform a meal from satisfying to unforgettable. So how on earth can you put this science into practice? Well, here's some evidence-backed ideas you can try today. Keep it neat and intentional. Even rustic food can be placed with order. A clean rim, a deliberate arrangement signals skill and care. Balance the composition. Avoid crowding to one side, unless you really know what you're doing, or that's the look you're going for, and distribute elements so the eye feels comfortable exploring the plate. Play with colour. White plates enhance sweetness, darker ones add more drama. Use contrast to make food pop, and maybe add garnish to rescue a monochrome dish, again, unless that's what you're going for. Think about shape. Round dollops suggest smoothness, jagged streaks suggest more of a punch. Match the visual form to the flavour profile. Use plate size as a frame. A portion can look generous or meagre depending on the plate size. Make sure the food doesn't feel lost or cramped. Add textural variety. Visual texture hints at flavour complexity. A sprinkle of herb, seeds or crunch breaks up uniformity and excites the eye. And finally, mind the lighting. Poor lighting can distort colour, even kill appetite. So plate under good lighting and take a good final look before serving. So why on earth go to all this effort? Because plating is never just about decoration. It's a form of design that taps directly into how our brains perceive food. It sets expectation, alters tastes, and communicates care and creates memories. Our ancestors used their sight to judge which foods were safe to eat, and those instincts have remained hardwired. A plate that looks fresh, intentional, tells your brain, this is good for me. And modern science now shows that those visual cues can make food taste sweeter, creamier, or even more luxurious, even when the recipe never changes. So the next time you plate, remember, you're not just arranging food, you're designing an experience. One that begins with the eyes, rewires the brain, and makes every bite more delicious. If you found this useful, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe. It really helps more people find these videos. But honestly, the best way you can support this channel is simply by watching another one. So if you want to keep on improving your plate and take your dish up to the next level, start with the video here and it will give you more ideas for your next plate design.